Welcome to month 2 of Cheshire Quilters Guild 2019 Block of the Month, Cat Den Mountain Quilts BOM. This is block 2, Road to California. And we're going to start out by doing the same thing that we did last month, in that we're going to take our rectangle, in this case fabrics A and D, and we're going to do the same thing. This is a different size rectangle, but you're still going to draw a line down the center, and we're going to draw lines on the 45 in each of the resulting squares. We're again making 4 half square triangles from these 2 rectangles. So I've got my diagonal lines drawn. I'm going to go now and stitch on both sides of the diagonal lines, cut the 4 half square triangles apart, and then I'm going to press the seams open. I'll meet you back here when it's time to trim them up to size. Okay, so I have my 4 half square triangles, and now I'm going to square them up. These get squared up to 4.5 inches. I happen to have a ruler that's 4.5 inches wide, and it has a 45-degree on it, so I can just lay this on, and I can actually trim 3 sides at once if I want to. I'm only going to trim 2. But having that 4.5 inch width ruler does make it a little easier to make sure that you're on the block correctly. And again, as before, I can also use a Tucker Trimmer 1 to trim up the unit. Again, it's a 1/2 inch, so I'm going to use this side, and I want to, these are 4.5 instead of 3.5. And then I can trim my 2 sides, rotate the unit around, lay my tool back down, and cut the other 2 sides. So let me finish up with trimming the other 2, and I'll meet you back here for the next step in this block. Okay, there you can see my finished half square triangles all trimmed to size. Next thing we're going to do is sew our 2.5 inch strips together of fabric A and E. So I'm going to sew this together, and then it tells us to press toward the dark fabric, and I'm going to do that for this one. So I'll meet you back here when I have my strip all sewn together and pressed. Okay. The next thing we need to do is to take our strip set. I've already trimmed off the selvage end, and I want to cut 10 2.5 inch width segments. And we're going to pair these up in the next step. But for right now, I'm just going to cut off 10 2.5 inch segments. Now, if as you go along, you feel like the edge is no longer even, I'm just going to illustrate here. I'm going to just, so that it's no longer square to your seam, because I'm lining up a line on my ruler with the seam line. Then what you can do is just cut it a little bit wider, and then you can rotate it around and then trim it off so that you've got a nice square edges on both sides of your piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out my 10 pieces that I need for this block, and then I'm going to take the rest of the strip set that I have, and I'm going to set that aside because we're going to need that in month 7. So don't lose this. Put this with your fabrics so that you have it for month 7. So here's my 10 sections, and I'm pairing them up so that I can make 4 patches. I'm going to make 5 4 patches. I'm going to sew down this side. The instructions then have you press that seam open, but I'm going to furl that seam. So when I come back, I'll show you how I furl seams. Okay, so now we have these. I want to show you how I furl seams. Now in our two pieces we press to the dark side. When you furl, you're going to push the seams toward the other, away from the dark side. And when you do that, it twists open the seam. You get a little mini forepatch in the back, and what you have are much smaller bumps as far as where the seams, much less bulk where the seams come together. So let me show you again. These were pressed to the dark. So when we open it up, we're going to press these to the other two sides toward the light, and that furls that seam and makes it much smoother and flatter. The term furl comes from sailing, and that has to do with how you fold the sail up onto the mast when you take them down to make them nice and neat and flat. So we're furling our seam as if we were furling our sails. These are to the dark, these are to the light. And you'll see what also happens is that if we go around in a circle, all these seams are going in a counterclockwise direction. So that's another, it's also called spinning the seams, is another name for it. So one more time, I'm going to pop it open and make a little forepatch on the back. And now I'm going to take these over to the ironing board and press those nice and flat. So I'll see you back here when I have that done. Okay, so there's all of my four patches with my nice little furled seams. And now we can lay out our block. All of the four patches are in this orientation with the blues, fabric E in the lower left and the upper right. And if we put those 5 units down, that leaves place for our half square triangles, which go in this orientation with the reds, which is fabric D, pointing toward our string of blue. So that's the orientation for the block. So now I'm going to sew the units together in 3 rows, and I'm going to press the instructions have us press to the right in the top and bottom, and to the left in the middle. I'm going to press the seams open like I did in the last block. Meet you back here when I have that finished. Okay, there's my 3 rows. Now I need to sew the rows together, and that will finish up the block. So let me go do that. This is going to be another pretty block to add to my block of the month. And there you have it, Block 2, Road to California in Cheshire Quilters Guild 2019 Block of the Month, Cat Dem Mountain Quilts, BOM. Join me next month for Block 3, Garden Patch, as we continue the year with this Block of the Month.